This is Lucy Talks Movies. If you're in San Francisco and you turn right on 15th off of Lake Street and drive to the end of the houses and through the gate, you're in the Presidio. It's very quiet and down at the heels. Before you, on a rise, is a behemoth derelict hospital with a metal gate around it, just in case the boarded windows aren't enough of a signal. Down to the right, and a swoop around back, is an old white steam-producing plant, and inside is Arion Press, where some of the most beautiful books in the world are printed on presses from 19th and early 20th centuries, and bound with linen, by hand. The dedicated, tireless, and talented people who run Arion Press, Andrew Hoyam and Diana Ketchum, love to give tours of their fabulously airy and old-world premises. Outside, if you felt lost, you certainly feel found once you cross their threshold. Yes, their books are incomparably elegant. The conversations they arrange around publications are stimulating, but it's the underlying feeling that the whole place is under constant threat, that these people are fighting a very uphill battle for aesthetic purity, that makes it a Dickensian experience that might attract the interest of the epic ensemble filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson and the extravagantly imaginative star of his new film, Daniel Day-Lewis. The report is that the pair were inspired by Number 6, a 1979 edition of Moby Dick by Herman Melville, with woodcuts by Barry Moser, and decided it should be the basis for the titles of their upcoming movie, There Will Be Blood. It was the type on the dedication page to Nathaniel Hawthorne that the movie men wanted to induce Kenny Howard, the setter's apprentice at M&H Type, to create their rolling credits. M&H Type are also in the building and print the books for Arion Press. They are the oldest and largest type foundry for letterpress printers in America, and they have been using the computer since the 1970s as well. If you get through all of that history, there is Howard, the young man who came right out of college and has spent the last 6 years learning from Louis Mitchell, who has been at the presses for 57 years. It was Howard, a droid on the press and on his Mac, who made the title sequence for There Will Be Blood. Howard interrupts himself as often as he starts a thought, and yet one phrase prevails: in the right hands. It's an attitude and an idea that sustains him. In the right, well-trained hands, he can create beauty and integrity on the page. Physically, Howard is the condensed type version of a man, but when he holds bars of metal, they might be clouds, which says as much about his attitude to them as it does to the strength in his fingers. He has to be deeply creative, and yet he has a silence around him that I imagine Daniel Day-Lewis would envy. Kenny Howard is the kind of skilled man the actor studies when he's getting ready for a part. Indeed, Day-Lewis out of high school applied to a 5-year cabinet-making program, but wasn't accepted because of lack of experience. Or maybe it's just that they knew better. Day-Lewis's father, Cecil, had been the poet laureate in Britain. He contributed poetry to more than 80 books. He wrote 20 detective novels under the pseudonym Nicholas Blake, which began because he had to fix a leaking roof on his house and allowed him to make a living as a writer for the rest of his life. The original detective was based on his friend, W.H. Auden, no less, and Day-Lewis Blake married the actress Jill Balcon, daughter of the head of Ealing Studios, which is how she got her start. But her father was so disapproving of the philandering writer that the old man didn't speak to his daughter or meet her children until their father died. Still, she continued acting until very recently. She is now 85 and has helped with a biography of her late husband, for whom she still holds a candle, though he died when she was 47. This is a family of talent and drama of the highest order. In his father's very first book of poetry in 1925, Cecil wrote, "Tempt me no more, for I have known the lightning's hour, the poet's inward pride, the certainty of power." I can imagine Daniel Day-Lewis, who has described himself as morose, wanting some peace, but that is not one of his achievements. Instead, he was accepted out of high school at Bristol's Old Vic School, where he got his start acting at their theater. It was in the genes and the society. If Daniel had a capacity, he would be given chances, and he is nothing if not a risk-taker.